We're going to continue this powerful, inclusive conversation in our first keynote speaker this morning. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Claire Achmad, Chief Children's Commissioner and a passionate advocate for our mokopuna. With expertise in children's rights, law and policy, she champions youth voices and inclusive leadership. Today, she shares strategies to empower young people, ensuring their voices shape decisions that actually impact them. And I know that she spent some time at the conference yesterday in preparation for her presentation today. So can you please make welcome to the stage Dr. Claire Achmad.
Tuia te rangi, tuia te papa, tuia nā kōrero, tuia nā wānanga, kia mau, kia ita, kia kuru paunamu te rongo, mo te oranga o nā mokopuna, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. Ko tēnei taku mihi ki ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohe, te ati awa taranaki whānui ki te upoko o te ika. Nei rā te mihi ki te mō te korowai manaki mō a mātou i tēnei rā. E te whānau o ihi Aotearoa, tēnā koutou katoa. E rau rangatira mā i hui mai nei i tēnei rā ki te whakakaha te kaupapa o te rā, o nā hākinakina o Aotearoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Talofa lava, nisa bula, māloe lele, whakalofa lahi atu, kia orana, apa kabar. It is great to be with you here today. No airani ko te rana me Indonesia o ku tipuna i whānoa hau i te maro o te maunga o Waitakere, i tipu aki a hau i te kainga o Titirangi i te taha o te awa o te whau. Ko te whanganui a tāra e noho ana, ko tangata tiriti a hau, ko hau te kaikomihana matua mō nā tamariki mokopuna o Aotearoa, ko Claire Achmad tōku ingoa. Kia ora koutou katoa. I'm a person of woven heritage from Java in Indonesia, Scottish and Irish ancestry. I am a proud daughter of West Auckland and Tāmaki Makaurau, born in the beautiful Waitakere Ranges, and now I live here in Te Whanganui Atara, and I have the pleasure of serving as Chief Children's Commissioner for the children and young people of Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm in my 40s, I have short black curly hair, a big smile. Today I'm wearing a bright green flowery top, black trousers, and my pronouns are she, her. It's great to be with you today to talk about this kaupapa of empowering youth voices, something that I am very, very passionate about. And I also want to acknowledge all of the youth voices that we have already heard across the course of the conference yesterday, as well as today. So I want to first of all start as well by giving a big mihi to you all. Nui te mihi kia koutou katoa, mō tō mahi i te taha o ngā mokopuna o Aotearoa. Thank you for the work that you do as leaders and that your teams do around the motu at the side of children and young people of our country. We've heard about some of the incredible things this morning happening, and I know there are many incredible things happening throughout the motu. Sport really does make a difference. The recreation and play, this is something that I know can be a game changer in children and young people's lives. I've seen that firsthand for myself in communities around the motu, and I thank you for everything that you do to uphold that kaupapa. Today's focus is one that I really like. Nā tahi, we're better together, and I really believe that working across generations, we are better and we do get better outcomes. Before I go on, I thought that we'd just pause and have a quick moment of reflection. And I'm going to ask you to answer this pātai really, really honestly. So thinking back to yesterday and all of the kōrero that we heard, can I get a show of hands if you heard something yesterday that challenged you? Put your hand up if you heard something that challenged you. Yep, me too. Now, keep your hand up if the thing that challenged you was said by a rangatahi, by a person who's younger than you. A few hands going up there. Thank you for answering that honestly. keep your hand up, please, if they made you reflect on how you and your team are doing things in your organisation in terms of serving them as rangatahi. Great. I'm really glad to see that moment of reflection, and thanks for being honest. I appreciate it. And I really want to reassure you at the start of this morning, because in my role as the independent advocate for all children and young people in Aotearoa, they are often challenging me to go further, faster, harder for their rights and for their well-being. And sometimes the things that they are sharing with me, they are confronting, like I think some of the things we heard from rangatahi yesterday. But I have really come to recognise that that challenge across generations, it is ultimately a good thing. And I've learnt to embrace that, to sit with the discomfort sometimes, and to remember always to put myself, whenever I can, into their shoes, to try and see through their eyes, and to seek to bridge that generational gap. And so I thank you all for keeping those open minds and already starting to think about where you might go with some of those whakaaro as you move back into your communities around the motu over the next few days and weeks. And it's really these people, mokopuna, children and young people, who all of us have in common here today. I work with them every single day around the motu as their independent advocate, and you work to serve them every single day in your organisations. And so that is what we are going to discuss this morning. So as I said, I work as the independent advocate for all of Aotearoa New Zealand's 1.23 million children and young people under the age of 18, and also all children and young people under the age of 25 who have been in or who are in care and or custody. My focus is on promoting the wellbeing and interests of all mokopuna in Aotearoa New Zealand, advancing their rights under the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and encouraging children and young people's participation and voices in the matters that are important to them. I also have an amazing team who go into places where children and young people are deprived of their liberty around Aotearoa New Zealand to prevent harm from happening. And so what does my mahi look like? A lot of the time it looks like this. A lot of whakawhanaunatanga, of building, of hononga, relationships, weaving relationships with children and young people, going into their communities around the motu, hearing about the things that are important to them, meeting them in their special spaces and places where they feel most comfortable, learning about their lives, about their aspirations, about their hopes and dreams, and about the challenges in their lives. Really, it is about aroha, mōna mokopuna, love and understanding and connection with our children and young people. And I am kaitiaki in this role for a time. I build on the incredible legacy of over 30 years of New Zealand having a Children's Commissioner and the work of my predecessors in this role. My advocacy is very much for and with mokopuna. So yes, I am the māngai, the spokesperson, the vocal advocate, loud and proud for mokopuna, but I also am advocating with them. And whenever I can, I am turning up in spaces together with mokopuna, like at our parliament, to bring directly their voices and to support them in their voices, making clear to the government the things that are important to them and the things that they want to see change on. And I'm actively working towards this vision here. Kia kuru pounamu te rongo. All mokopuna live their best lives. Yes, this is an aspiration that we work towards, but I very much believe it is an achievable aspiration. And it's a collective vision. Even though me and my team, we take the lead on this, we need absolutely everyone in this room and everyone around the motu to be picking up a hoi, jumping into that waka with us and paddling towards this moemoea together, because it can be made real through mahi tahi across generations. You've heard me use this word, mokopuna, and I intentionally use this kupu There's a few reasons why. So if we break down this kupu into its parts, the first part, moko, imprint. And the second part, puna, pool or wellspring. Together, we put those kupu together and we get mokopuna, reflection of the imprint, a descendant. And the reasons why I intentionally use this kupu is because mokopuna reminds us we were all children once. We are all mokopuna, people of our descendants, our ancestors. And it recognises our intergenerational connection with our ancestors. And I believe it draws us closer across the generations. So mokopuna. We heard yesterday that we have 1.2 million mokopuna in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Children make up close to a quarter of our population. And I believe that means that we have 1.2 million taonga in Aotearoa, New Zealand. He taonga te mokopuna. Mokopuna are people to be treasured, nurtured, cherished. They are precious. Yesterday we heard about Generation Alpha, and I want to remind you that Generation Beta is being born today. And a mokopuna who is born today is very likely still going to be alive in the year 2100. So just think about everything to come in those coming years. 2100, it sounds like a distant future, and for some of us it is. But that is the reality of the intergenerationality that we are working with. So I believe you as leaders in Hakinakina across the motu, you have a huge opportunity in your hands, in the roles that you play, to actively demonstrate he taonga te mokopuna in your work, and to create a culture in your organisations and your communities where mokopuna are not only seen, but are respected, actively celebrated, supported, nurtured, so that they can thrive to their absolute fullest potential. So I want to share a bit of a wero with you as we continue this kōrero this morning. Something to hold in your mind as I'm talking this morning, and to carry with you as you leave here later this afternoon and return to your communities. So as you serve as leaders, I encourage you to remember that because of the positions of power and influence that you hold, you can choose to weave intergenerational relationships and solutions. You can choose to be a kairaranga, a weaver of relationships, with the mokopuna who engage in your sports, your active recreation and play spaces at the absolute centre of what you do. And as kairaranga, as weavers of these relationships, you can choose to foster a legacy mindset, remembering that the decisions that you make today, they really can have a ripple effect in the lives of mokopuna today and into the future as they grow up. So I encourage you to actively choose to intentionally think about those long-term influences and consequences, and strive to leave a positive legacy through a legacy mindset for those younger than us and for those in Generation Beta who are yet to come. So I encourage you to reflect on this partai. So first of all, what is it when you go back to your communities that you are going to do to connect with mokopuna? Encourage your teams to connect with mokopuna and to bridge that generational gap. I encourage you to think about that and to hold that partai in your mind as we move through the rest of the day today. So a kete for you. Think of your kete, your basket of knowledge and skills and experience. And today I want you to think of your kete as ngā rangatira o Hakinakina i te taha o ngā mokopuna o Aotearoa, as leaders in sport working at the side of mokopuna here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I want to empower you with some actionable strategies that you can put into your kete and carry home with you when you are back in your communities, in your roles as board chairs, as CEOs, executive directors, and as leaders in our sports organisations. And the actionable strategies that I'm going to support you to have in your kete as you leave here today, these are going to be in addition to everything that you've already added into this kete over the past day or so. So in addition to the things that the rangatahi shared with us yesterday, their wisdom and their calls to action, and the wider wisdom shared by yesterday's kai kōrero and the great exemplars of practice that we have heard about this morning. So you really have already got so many things in your kete, but I want to acknowledge that with that learning mindset, there's always room to add some more things. So the actionable strategies that I'll share with you this morning, they're going to focus on increasing your capacity and capability to hear and amplify mokopuna voices, to strengthen your intergenerational decision making, and to support inclusive participation of all mokopuna in sport, active recreation and play. When I started my role as Chief Children's Commissioner in November 2023, I recognised that to be an effective and credible advocate for and with mokopuna, I needed to ground everything that I do in the lived experiences and voices of mokopuna themselves. And that continues to be my core commitment in this role, alongside advocating for children's rights to be upheld, protected and respected. And so from the get-go, from November 2023, we started a new project, and it's asking mokopuna around the motu one big pātai. I tō ao, he aha ngā mea nui. In your world, what matters most? And what I've learnt from that, asking that question in different ways, so through online surveys, through in-person kōrero, and through this postcard project, is that there is huge value in actually just asking mokopuna this simple question. A lot of mokopuna have responded to me and said, no one's ever asked me that before, and that they felt really good to actually be asked that question and for someone to care about what they say in response. And so I thought I'd bring some of their voices into the room this morning, first of all from some of the postcards that we have received, and I read every single one of these postcards. So this mokopuna who's 12 and identifies as Māori says, my mum, rugby and family is the most important thing in their world. This mokopuna who is 11, Samoan, Chinese and German, says family because they have my back and because I love them. This mokopuna who's 9 and Nuayan, they shared what matters most is having a family, a roof over your head and stopping family violence. It's a 9-year-old. This mokopuna who's 7, they shared being kind, including everyone and telling the truth. This mokopuna shared whānau kapahaka, they drew their family, some poi, their maunga and a tino rangatiratanga flag, and they are 12 and identify as Hāti Māori. And this mokopuna who's 10 says safety is important, playing sport and including others, having equipment so everyone can play. And this mokopuna who's 15 from Te Tai Tokorau, they say sharing kindness and helping our tamariki acknowledge one another, help our community, thank you, and a number of love hearts, kiss, kiss. As I said, we also hear from mokopuna through direct kānohi ki te kānohi conversations. And recently at the Halberg Games, the national sports tournament open to all mokopuna with a physical disability or visual impairment. We continued hearing from mokopuna about this big question. So I'd love to share this little video with you where they share what matters most to them.
That people like me or like kids like me get the right health care and stuff for their disabilities. So, Liz?
I think, like, as I was saying, just that community. I think growing up as someone with a disability, you can always feel quite isolated and no one really understands. So I think getting people together, having a bit of an eye-opener experience for everyone, and being like, they could find a sport that they love, they could meet a really good mate for, you know, life, you know, just having that connection and opening the doors, having the resources available at a meet like this is just always amazing to see.
Hunting, rugby, family and friends.
Awesome, and what about you?
Family, friends, and netball.
Protecting it and thinking of new ways to use power without wasting it.
Just that everyone has a good time, and no matter where you are in the world, you're always welcome.
Definitely the whole thing. Like all the games and stuff, yeah, I reckon that's quite important, especially for him. And yeah.
Thank you for listening to me.
So that's my first actionable strategy that I encourage you with. Ask mokopuna what they think and ata whakarongo. Listen with care to what they say. It's really about creating an environment where it's just normal to ask mokopuna what they think for their whakaro, and for them to know that they will genuinely be listened to when they share those things, and that their views and their ideas will be meaningfully taken into consideration. And I encourage you to start small. As I've shared, we build these ways of asking mokopuna these questions into events that we are participating in. I know you have events and tournaments and practices and spaces where mokopuna already are. So you can start small by building these things into events that you already have. We also heard yesterday about the opportunity of simple things like drawing, like writing, an ideas board, or even about creating something like a kōrero circle, which we often do out in the community at events that mokopuna are already participating in. And as you grow in confidence and capability in doing this kind of engagement mahi, participation and voices mahi with the mokopuna in your communities, you can also move into more creative things like the beautiful Out of the Darkness exhibition that we have the privilege of seeing outside today. I also want to emphasise to you that by creating this culture where it's just normal to ask mokopuna for their views and to then listen to those with care and treat them with respect, this can also increase safety for mokopuna and potentially reduce harm. Because if mokopuna feel safe sharing their views, knowing that they will be heard and treated with respect and taken seriously, if they do need to disclose to us about harm in our community and sports spaces, they will likely be more comfortable with doing that. And we do know that harm is something that we need to keep a constant focus on preventing and safeguarding children from in our communities, including in our sports. And so creating this environment where mokopuna are actually heard, their views valued and respected, can also be a protective factor too. And this quote from a mokopuna, I think, sums up well to me this way of working. They said to us last year, listen to the voices of young people and seriously consider what they are saying. We are becoming adults and we are the future. Something that I'm always doing as Chief Children's Commissioner is seeking to understand the range of experience that mokopuna have in our communities and hapori in Aotearoa, New Zealand. In my work, I put a particular focus on the rights of mokopuna Māori as the Indigenous mokopuna of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I do that working with them in the context of their whānau, their hapu, and their iwi. I prioritise a focus on mokopuna who are experiencing disadvantage, advocating for reducing and ultimately closing those equity gaps that exist. And I celebrate mokopuna diversity in all its forms. And as I said earlier, I hold the absolute highest aspirations for all mokopuna in our country. So these are some of our recent Mokopuna Voices reports. You can find them on our website. In these reports, we present the direct, unfiltered views of mokopuna on some of the really big and often tough things going on in their lives. So one on the experiences of mokopuna of racism and solutions for how to end it. One on mokopuna wellbeing across the life course. And then the final report here, A Place to Talk Peacefully, mokopuna experiences of healing from family and or sexual violence. And as we heard from mokopuna yesterday, they are the experts in their own lives. It is only mokopuna themselves who truly know what their experience is growing up as a young person in 2025 today. So I now want to share with you a slightly longer video. This is a conversation between me and some rangatahi from Ako Foundation in Kaikohe. And we had this conversation on Waitangi Day up in Waitangi. They share their whakaaro about some of their moemoea and dreams for the things that they want to see change in their communities. And what you'll hear is a lot of wisdom, so I encourage you to ata whakarongo, and then we'll draw out some more actionable strategies to add into your kete as rangatira. Ko wai koe e hoa?
Ko Manuo Hita tōku ingoa.
Tēnā koe, ko wai koe e hoa?
Ko Teme Parahita tēnei, he uri no Ngāti Ueoneone Tawa, Mawakatai.
Kia ora e hoa. I'm really interested to understand from you what's something that you want to see happen so that the moemoea of mokopuna can be better upheld in Aotearoa.
I think first of all, sussing out the basic needs, the necessities, because we can't be in a growing state if we're still in a survival state. So if we can suss out our survival needs and then start creating spaces that inspire tai tamariki and cultivate what they want to do and tailor it to them specifically because everyone's their own unique individual, that's something I'd really love to see come from the government or just come from a higher power. Yeah.
Earlier today you spoke about the idea of a strategy to hold the dreams of mokopuna here in Aotearoa. And so what could we do to actually nourish that?
I would say finding a way to spend a lot of time with the rangatahi and create a safe space for them. Because when you create a safe space, they'll be more willing to be open, and that's when you'll really get their dreams out of them. You'll start to see what they actually aspire to be, and then you can start creating an environment around them that doesn't subtract from that and only adds to that. Whether that's through mentors, whether that's through resources, technology, but it all depends on what they want. So that's the first step, I feel. Figuring out, creating a space that makes it easy for them to tell us what they want, and then coming in with some resources to back that. Yes.
Nā mihi te me para. Kia koe e hoa manuao. You were talking earlier about children's rights and this idea of children having a voice and mokopuna being able to participate. And just share your vision of that with us.
Alright, so my vision for that was, I was saying, when there's a decision to be made by a higher power that involves rangatahi, I think rangatahi should be at that table in that discussion with a power just as high as those others, because these decisions are affecting them. So the people that should have a say is the people getting affected. So I think those tai tamariki should have a place at that table to have that conversation, just like the other kaumātua that are there having that hui as well.
Kia ora e hoa, he tika tō kōrero. And you also spoke today so powerfully about the importance of safe spaces for mokopuna tai tamariki rangatahi. Just talk to us a little bit about what that kind of safe space looks like in your mind.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the partai they asked was what's a safe space in there, and I said a healthy home. But there's a lot of different safe spaces that can be created for tai tamariki. I'm going to use the gym as an example. The gym is a safe space where tai tamariki can put their energy into. Another one's something simple like a garden. Like a garden can be a safe space because they're putting their energy and time into there, and they're, receiving the rewards through their effort. So even if that's not what they stick to after doing it, it gives them something positive to work towards while they're still figuring it out. So a safe space to me can be a lot of things. A gym, a garden, a healthy home, a field, a rugby field, it's just a space where they feel comfortable to be who they are and achieve what they want to achieve.
Kia ora. Te me para here at Waitangi, we've heard about the importance of role models for our rangatahi, and you've spoken really passionately about that. So share with everyone around the motu about the importance of role models and what that means to you as a rangatahi Māori and for other rangatahi Māori, tama Māori.
So, I believe that us Tai Tamariki Māori, or us Tai Tamatane especially, need better male role models, or better role models in our life. All of us, we need better people to look up to, and we need to find ways to really promote those people, to really, awhi them, give them the resources they need to go around and hapai our tamariki. Because as Mato was saying on the panel, a lot of young men are drawn into the gangs, and that's common. And like he said, it's because the role models, everyone wants to be that fellow with the money and the chains. But I also look at men who look after their family, who work off the land, who have a good career, as good role models. I'd love to see a lot more of them, and a lot more of them interact with young people. Just having us young people in that space with those kind of adults, it really rubs off. It's like, hey, I want to be like that. He's doing awesome things and he's doing it the right way. How can I be like that? And then that's when they'll come in and I guess show you the pathway to achieve what they've achieved. So yeah, that's why I'm very passionate about role models. I think they're very important. Yes.
Kia ora kōrua, ka nui noi te mihi kia kōrua, ko tēnei te kōrero from our rangatahi rangatira, nā mihi kia kōrua, te me para rawa ko manuao. And that's us here at Waitangi. It's been awesome to collab with these two from ACO Foundation, and let's listen to what they've got to say. This is how we can make change for our mokopuna tai tamariki rangatahi mā here in our beautiful Aotearoa, New Zealand. Kia ora kōrua. So even though that conversation wasn't directly about sport or a recreation or play, you can hopefully draw out a lot of wisdom that is directly applicable to all the spaces that you work in. And I think there's lots to unpack in what Manuel and Te Me Para shared. So let's draw out some of their wisdom into actionable strategies that you can add into your kite. And so the next actionable strategy that I want to encourage you towards is to really understand the realities of mokopuna lives in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and intentionally create safe spaces for mokopuna to be. I think that Te Me Para put it really well. He talked about the need to suss out the basics and the necessities. He said we can't be in a growing state if we're in a survival state. But I did want to draw forward to you the experiences that far too many mokopuna here in Aotearoa, New Zealand are carrying with them, some of the trauma that they are carrying. Despite the majority of mokopuna in Aotearoa, New Zealand doing well and living good lives, far too many are struggling, and so I want to remind you about the importance of understanding these realities and creating safe spaces for them. So a few statistics for us. 1 in 4 mokopuna in Aotearoa, New Zealand are living in food insecurity. That increases for our mokopuna Māori to 1 in 3, and for our mokopuna Pacific, almost 1 in 2 mokopuna Pacific are living in food insecurity. We have 156,000 mokopuna who are living in material hardship. What does that mean in real terms? Probably most of us have been to this place, Eden Park, our largest stadium. It means filling up Eden Park 3 times over with children. That is the number of children in this country going without 6 or more of the basic items that no child should want for and that no family or whānau should be stressed about whether they can provide. 97% of mokopuna 10 to 13 who have interacted with police have had a previous care and protection concern to oranga tamariki relating to their welfare. It shows the very big crossover between our care and protection system and our youth justice system, and to me that points to a high level of unmet need. When it comes to bullying, 32% of school students report having been bullied at least a few times a month or more when surveyed. And when it comes to sexual abuse in this country, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys will experience sexual abuse before they turn 18. I know these are harsh realities to hear, and that none of us want this to be the Aotearoa New Zealand where mokopuna are growing up. And so as leaders, we do have an opportunity to play our part in the collective change where we can change the story on these realities. We don't have to be this country. So I really want to emphasise these because these are some of the experiences that mokopuna in your spaces are carrying in with them or that are preventing them from being involved in sport, active recreation and play in the first place. But the spaces that you create by making them safe, they can be positive childhood experiences for all mokopuna, and that they can help to counter some of these adverse childhood experiences. Like we heard this morning, what this is all about is creating spaces where we recognise these realities, but we intentionally nurture spaces of belonging, of community, where identity in all its forms is celebrated, that are culturally grounded and inclusive, and where we remove barriers to participation with intentionality. And that is so important for our mokopuna whaikaha with disabilities, those who face financial barriers of different genders, of different educational status, and who are in the care of the state. And as this mokopuna has shared recently with us, they just want someone to stand up for me, hear my story and my point of view. It really is about spending that time with mokopuna, creating the safe spaces for them where they feel safe and have good role models, and they can be comfortable to be who they are. So I've got 2 more strategies to add to your kite before I round up to help you to empower youth voices and support meaningful engagement with mokopuna. As Manuel shared in the video, we are the ones being affected by decisions, so we should have a say. We should be at those tables. And that can be incredibly empowering for mokopuna because of their age and stage, we need to recognise they are at a democratic deficit when it comes to things like voting in our countries. But we can actually change some of that at the local and regional level. So I encourage you, when you're thinking about intergenerational collaboration and decision making, to think about it at both the governance and strategy level and also at your operational level. So when it comes to governance and strategy, involve mokopuna in setting your strategic direction and in governance decision making. Do you have rangatahi who sit on your boards? Is there just one? If there's just one, I encourage you to make sure there are 2 or 3, because the burden and responsibility on the shoulders of that one young person can often be really heavy to carry. When it comes to voting in your organisation, maybe you need to look at your constitution or your rules to see how can you better involve mokopuna and give them voting rights in your organisation. And when it comes to your operations, how can you better co-design processes and ways of working intentionally with mokopuna? Identify those opportunities to co-design your ways of working, to create feedback loops to hear from them. And what are your complaints mechanisms like, so that if mokopuna do need to make a complaint about something that happens, will that be able to be done in a mokopuna friendly way? And then lastly, how do you communicate and hear from mokopuna? Have you asked them how they want to receive information from you and your organisation? By choosing a legacy mindset, you can intentionally include mokopuna in your strategy and in your operations. And we've done this in our organisation, Mana Mokopuna Children and Young People's Commission. We've taken everything that we've heard from mokopuna when we ask them what matters most in their world, and we've created our strategic advocacy aspirations. They focus on a strong start in life for all mokopuna, thriving families and whānau, all mokopuna growing up safe and well, and participating in what matters to me, including in sport, active recreation and play. And the fourth and final actionable strategy that I want to share with you is this. It's about grounding your mahi in children's rights. So in my organisation, we ground everything that we do in one of our founding documents here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, that affirms the rights of mokopuna and whānau Māori, and it creates a place for us who are tauiwi to stand here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. We team that up with the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which sets out 42 basic minimum rights that all mokopuna should have in their lives. This includes the right to play, the right to participation, and the right to non-discrimination. And a really practical example relevant to sport right now when it comes to that right to non-discrimination is that the different rules that apply to children who are homeschooled. For example, they don't have the same opportunities as others to participate in sports tournaments and competitions. These barriers are discriminatory and they simply don't need to exist. So I really bring forward to you a children's rights approach to your work, to put that into your kete and use children's rights as a tool for your decision making and your ways of working that will actively support you to promote and advance the rights of mokopuna. And you can find some resources on our website. This is one of the resources that we've co-designed together with mokopuna. We take it out into the community and it empowers them to know their rights, because something that we can all do is ensure that mokopuna realise and know that they are rights holders, and that we as adults have responsibilities and obligations to play our part in upholding their rights and make sure that this knowledge is in their kete. So, te kete o ngā rangatira o Hakinahina I te taha o ngā mokopuna o Aotearoa. By intentionally packing these actionable strategies into your kete, I hope that they will help you to bridge that generational gap in some new ways and ultimately support more mokopuna to thrive by feeling empowered in their participation and their voices, to be actively engaged in shaping the decisions that affect them, and to uphold their inclusive participation in sport, recreation and play. And I want to remind you of this whakatauki before I wrap, drawing on the deep wisdom of Te Ao Māori. This whakatauki speaks to the fact that my success and strength, it is not mine alone, it comes from the collective. E hara taku toa I te toa takitahi, engari he toa takitini. By empowering youth voices and putting into action those meaningful ways of collaboration required of us as leaders, we can uphold the rights of mokopuna to be collective in their strength. Ultimately, it's about kotahitanga, unity. Kotahitanga, solidarity across generations. Kotahitanga amongst you as leaders in Hakinakina, working in the service of mokopuna every single day in your communities. Nō reira, kia kaha te mahi tonu I te taha o ngā mokopuna o Aotearoa. Ki te hapaitia te aratika, kia pūmau ai te rangatiratanga mō ngā uri whakatipu. Huri noa I te whare, tēnā rā tātou katoa, he rangi mokopuna.
gifts for you. I te tuatahi, he mihi aroha ki a koe I tō tū I te rānei me tō mahi rangatira ki ngā mokopuna. I know that you face so many challenges and the role that you do on so many different levels as well. But your work, the work that you do is important and substantial in hearing our babies' voices and upholding those voices. So on behalf of the room today, thank you so much for your time and for your insights as well. Nau I rangatira ai tā tātou hui I te atanei. Nō reira, tēnā koe I te maraukura. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just before we go to the break, we got this, and I'm not going to say who you are in the room, but just something that came through on the app. It occurs to me in hindsight that we all should have brought a young person from our respective agencies to this conference, so to action in their terms what we are hearing. So I'm just going to leave that there, and maybe that's something that we think about for the future, but also something that we think about when we go back to the organisations that we're in, and whether we take that rangatahi voice with us into different spaces if you're not already doing that. It is time for morning tea. We're going to be back here in just over 10 minutes for our next keynote speaker. And just before we all rush out the door, I'll do a quick karakia for our food. Nau mai ngā hua, o papa ahu re waranginui ki te kai, whi tiki kia ora, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. See you soon.